This video will cover the first page of notes for the topic dividing polynomials. Before we get to dividing polynomials, let's introduce and/or review some vocabulary. Just a couple of notes. We need to know that this is our dividend and this is our divisor. So if we kind of think about it, is if we were going to put it in long division, our dividend will be the one that goes inside, 3x cubed minus 2x plus 5. And our divisor would be the one that comes on the outside as x minus 3. When we're done, we will get our quotient. It's usually where we put it up here. That will equal to our quotient. And if we have a remainder, we would actually add our remainder. So for example, if we were trying to divide 3,025 by 13, so this would be our dividend and this would be our divisor. And we would sit there and do long division by asking ourselves 13 goes into 30 how many times? That would be 2. When we multiply 2 times 13 and we get 26. And then we subtract and we do 30 minus 26 is 4. And obviously 13 doesn't go into 4. We would bring down the next number and there's our 2 right here. But I want to notice that we have a 0 here for the hundredths place, and we're going to see that same idea happening over here when we talk about our dividend. We have a 3x cubed, but we don't have a 3x squared. So we're going to have to change some of these things that we have so that our new dividend is going to be 3x cubed plus 0x squared minus 2x plus 5. So one way to think about this is that if we have a polynomial of degree 3, then we need to have 4 terms, one for the x cubed, one for the x squared, one for the x to the 1, and then our constant. And then now we're ready to divide. Just like we did over here, I'm going to ask myself x times what will give me 3x cubed. And we can see that we need a 3x squared. Notice where I placed it. I placed it on top of the x squared stuff. So next thing we did after we put our number up here is we multiplied these two. So I'm going to write it over here in a little cloud that we're multiplying 3x squared times x minus 3. So we're doing this. We're going to multiply this and we're going to put it right here. So 3x squared times x is going to give me 3x cubed, which we knew that. And then doing the distributive property, I'm going to get a negative 9x squared when I multiply 3x squared times a negative 3. The next thing we did here is that we subtracted the 26, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to subtract all of this. So one of the things I tell my students is instead of doing that, let's just say change the sign, because remember when we had negative 3x cubed minus 9x squared, if we take away the parentheses, we would have done distributive property and got negative 3x cubed positive 9x squared. So that's where this positive 9x squared is coming from. As we continue, we're going to subtract 3x cubed minus 3x cubed. So those cancel out. I'm going to have 9x squared plus, I'm going to have 0x squared plus 9x squared is 9x squared. The next thing we did over here was we brought down that next number, so we're going to bring down our next term, which is minus 2x. And then if I come back over here where I was doing my division, After we did that, we would ask 13 goes into 42 however many times, and then we would put our number here and start all over again. So we're doing the exact same thing for our particular problem. So we're going to ask ourselves x times what will give me 9x squared. So we can see that's going to be a positive 9x. So I'm going to multiply my positive 9x times my x minus 3. Because that whatever number I got here, I would multiply it times my 13 and put it down here. So I'm doing the same thing. 9 times x is going to be 9x squared. 9 times a negative 3 is a negative 27, and don't forget your x. So I did this, and that's where this came from. The next thing we're going to do is subtract. Remember, instead of subtracting, I'm going to change the signs and add. When I add, the 9x squares are gone, and when I add these two, I get a positive 25x, and then I bring down the next term, and I'm going to continue my division. I'm ready to continue, and I'm going to ask again, x times what will give me my 25x? I need to multiply by 25. When I do that, I get 25 times x is 25x. Then I need to multiply 25 times a negative 3. That's going to give me a negative 75. We're going to change the sign, and add. The 25x's are gone, and I end up with just 80. And that is my remainder. So for the answer for this problem would be our quotient, which is this guy right here, 3x squared plus 9x plus 25, plus our remainder. Our remainder was 80, that's what was left, and we would write that over our divisor, which is x minus 3. So this should have remainder divided by our divisor. So there's a couple of ways we can write this. So one way is write my answer as the quotient plus the remainder over the divisor. That is the answer of our division. We'll talk about rewriting it in a different manner in a minute. The other thing I wanted to note is that we can write our answer as the dividend, that's a guy inside of our house of division, times the quotient times the divisor plus the remainder. So in other words, our dividend, which was 3x cubed plus 0x squared, we don't have to write that, but I did, minus 2x plus 5, is the same thing you would have gotten if you would have multiplied 3x squared plus 9x plus 25 times x minus 3, that's our divisor, plus our remainder of 80. So in other words, if I would have multiplied my quotient times x minus 3, we multiply that, and we would get, we can do the math, let's do that. So we get 3x cubed, multiplying everybody times x, plus 9x squared plus 25x. Then I'm going to multiply everybody times negative 3. So negative 3 times 3x squared is going to be a negative 9x squared. Negative 3 times 9x is a negative 27x. And negative 3 times 25 is a negative 75. So I multiplied those two. I would get 3x cubed. These go away. I would get negative 2x minus 75. And then it says add your remainder. So we're going to add our remainder of 80. And we see we get 3x cubed minus 2x plus 5, which is our dividend. The good news is I will not be asking you to do long division, which is what we just finished doing. But I will show you a shortcut, which is what we call synthetic division. So check this out. I am going to get our dividend. So I'm going to come back up here so you can see what I'm going to do. I'm going to get our dividend that's right here. And I'm going to write just the coefficients. I have it written down here in the circle. So we would write down 3x cubed, 0x squared, minus 2 or negative 2x, and a positive 5. And then we would get our divisor. Remember our divisor was x minus 3. If I solve that for 0, we would find x is equal to 3. And that's what I'm going to put right here. So for synthetic division, the first thing we're going to do is bring down the first term, which is a 3. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply my divisor times this number down here and put it right here for a 9. 3 times 3 is 9. Then the next thing I'm going to do is add down, and I'm going to get a 9 right here. Then I'm going to get my divisor. I'm going to multiply it times the next number that we brought down. 3 times 9 is 27. And then I'm going to add down, and I'm going to get positive 25. Then I'm going to multiply my divisor times that last number we brought down. So 3 times 25 is 75. And then I'm going to add down, and I'm going to get 80. So check this out. We could have done this division and found out that my answer would be 3x squared. Why x squared? Because this was x cubed. So this is what we call the depressed polynomial. It comes down by 1 degree. So it would be 3x squared plus 9x to the 1 power plus 25 plus 80 over your divisor. And that is the same result we got when we did long division. That's this one up here, when we did long division. So let's practice synthetic division. So I will not ask you to do long division, but I will ask you to do synthetic division. So let's do example number 1. So the very first thing we should be able to do is to set it up. So let's set it up. I'm going to set it up in black. Notice this is our dividend. We need the coefficients of our dividend. And we're going to put those over here outside this little box. So I need a 5. Remember, that's for the x cubed. I need a number for the x squared. I need a number for the x to the 1. And then I need my constant. An easy way to remember is that this is x cubed, then I need 4 numbers down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. To decide what goes inside, I look at x plus 2. And I solve that for 0. When x plus 2 is equal to 0, that means x is equal to negative 2. And that's what I'm going to put in right here. Now you can try the synthetic division on your own. You can pause the video here, but I'm going to go ahead and continue. I'm going to do one in each different color. The very first step that you need to do is to bring down that first number, whatever that first number is. After that, step 2 is multiply your divisor times this number and place it underneath the next coefficient that you already wrote down. So negative 2 times 5 is a negative 10. And then you're going to add, and I get negative 16. The next thing you're going to do is get your divisor, this number that you're dividing by, and you're going to multiply it times this number. And we're going to place it right here underneath the next coefficient. So negative 2 times negative 16 is a positive 32. And then we're going to add, and we're going to find that's a positive 4. Then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to get that negative 2. We're going to multiply it times this 4 and place it underneath the last number we wrote. So negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. And then I'm going to add, and I get 0. So the answer for this particular division is going to be 5x squared. Remember, this was x to the 3rd, so this one will go down by 1 and it'll be x squared. minus 16x plus 4. And I don't have a remainder, so we don't have to write that part, but I'm going to just show you. We would have written, if this had been a number other than 0, I would put that number and then I would put my divisor of x plus 2. So we can clearly see that this guy is our answer because 0 over anything is still 0. So that would be our quotient. That would be our answer, and a remainder of 0. This concludes this video.